having my wife do what she did at the end, it was a full circle moment for me. Being so intentional to make sure she affirmed me in front of everybody at the end was like, that was because everything else was on the script. Everything else was on the show. Everything else was on the schedule. Yeah. And I go to her and she's mic'd up. And I'm like,
what's going on there?
Hey, what's up, man? It's your man, Coach Crump, the Boy Man King podcast with my man, 100 Grand Chizzy.
Yeah, man. What's going on? What's going on, my guy?
Today is a day of reflection.
Yes.
Brother, we had a movement and a movie yesterday, man. Again, a lot of people ask me how I feel, man, but I want to ask you, how you feel about the King Conference yesterday, bro?
I feel like we get better and better each year. This is year number 2. The first year was amazing. I don't know if there's a word past amazing, but this is amazing times too.
Yeah.
I really am starting to enjoy. I almost feel like people are now starting to look for these particular opportunities from us. And the environment was amazing. It was a professional setting, very intimate as we often expect, as we intentionally try to put together. The breakout groups were super, super dope. It was a good thing, man. The community, we need it. The community needs it. I need it.
Yeah. I think for me, that was probably the distinction, right, was how many people were telling me how good it was. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing people be, hey, man, how you think? And then people just got to kind of say the right thing because you're asking them. This was the first time I wasn't asking nobody. They were just, hey, this was, you got to do this. I'm like, okay. And first I'm like, okay, yeah. And then the event's over. We done packed the clip, the whole, man, this event, this guy. I'm like, okay. And then it's just my wife. And I'm always big on this.
Right. Nick gives you stamp of approval.
Yeah. So everybody said everything, but my wife, she rations her praise out rarely. I'm talking, when I say rarely, I'm hoping once every 2 or 3 years. Like, it's like that rare if I speak or if I'm doing an event, and she'll be like, babe, no, that was good. And she couldn't stop talking about the experience.
Man.
And she's never, in 22 years, she's never experienced something with me, and she couldn't stop thinking about something that I helped put on. Wow. So that's when I really knew. Because to be honest, I didn't feel it like everybody else, because for me, it's like, I'm worried about the event. I'm working. Yeah. So I'm not fully experiencing it like everybody else is experiencing it. So I really have to trust people's
judgment,
feedback on what it was for them. But it was so consistent that I was getting that during and after production, and then my wife just kept bringing it up, man. And I was just like, all right, God, I get my whole thing, because I'm still processing the work. I'm still processing the setup, the breakdown, the vendors, the speakers, the tech, the team. Like, I'm processing all of that. But I'm driving home exhausted. Yeah. And I was like, I just want some Chick-fil-A. We got some Chick-fil-A, and
it's funny, we got Chick-fil-A right after that too. Real talk. We had the Chick-fil-A, we chopped it up.
Yeah.
And then I was laid on the couch, and
we need a sponsor, by the way, Chick-fil-A. We need a sponsor, man.
Facts.
But
Facts.
But yeah, man. So I was full.
Yeah.
I was full. Yeah. So what was your favorite part of the conference?
I think my favorite part was actually being the impromptu session that we had with Shannon and Charles post-divorce. I really enjoyed it, only because it's strange because people have this perception post-divorce. Don't get me wrong, it was an extremely difficult time as well. But for me, it also reaffirms my commitment to being a better version of me, and also my commitment to my children. And this gets sound strange, and even to my ex-wife, because I even still believe that there will always be family, no matter what. And no matter what took place, we will always be family, and I'll always be 100% supportive, and I'm going to be there regardless. That's my responsibility, and I take that responsibility seriously. But I enjoyed the component where I got to sit and talk with Shannon and talk with Charles about the experience, because I know that there are people out there that have had the experience that can benefit from my perspective and also from Charles' perspective, that there is hope, there is life after, there is healing, but you have to put in the work to make sure you get to a space where you can now steal a resource. Because like I said, you're always going to be family, especially when you have kids with your ex-partner. So you have to really shift your mindset on how you now can create a new normal, not just for your kids, but for her as well. So that was my favorite part, actually.
Yeah, and it's funny because a brother was testifying about how ignorant we are about giving advice. You know, people that are married and people that have kids hate for people who are not married and don't have kids to give me advice. But like, you literally don't have no credibility. You have no clue of what you're talking about if you're not actually in a marriage or never been in a marriage or you never had children. Like, it is a completely different thing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, sometimes in the space of coaching men, I find myself having ignorant spots. And one of them was a brother who's been divorced. Mm-hmm. And it took somebody explaining to me, two different guys, and it was Demetrius and DeJuan, explaining how divorce affected them. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, divorce is serious. It takes men out. And then when it was this thing about divorce is equivalent to a death. Yeah. And there's like, you grieve like it's death, and it feel like you said that's the closest thing to death that somebody's ever experienced. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was like, how can something like that be happening every day to men across America and nobody's talking about it? Yeah. So when I approached Shannon even told me at the event, he said, I don't know why you asked me.
Ask him, because he's at the helm of building marriages.
Yeah, but I was like, he was divorced. Yeah. But I said, you got the best healing for me because you've been divorced, then you remarried, you got remarried for a long period of time, y'all had children, and you built a ministry and a business with your wife on your second time.
Who better to talk about it?
Who better to hold a panel to discuss this? Because it's this huge gap in men. Mm-hmm. I know women have that, but I gotta speak for the men I work with in the sense of like, they're not having a space to talk about that, and they're getting tools and tips and resources on how to address it. So.
It's funny because I've never really talked about it. I've never had to see me in this new space being divorced. Obviously, I'm experiencing it. I'm living it. But to actually sit there and even hear Charles's perspective on it, he's somewhat new in the experience. I can remember the anger. I can remember the pain. I can remember the frustration, and even how that plays out in how we even parented at some point. You know, and so I'm thankful that, you know, I have now transitioned to a different space and a different approach, and I pray for everybody who's actually having this experience now, whether it's a new experience for you, whether you're going through divorce or even thinking about divorce. And I said it out yesterday. I said, the person I am now, I probably would never have ever even thought about getting a divorce if I knew then what I knew now. And we know hindsight is always 20/20. Right?
Yeah. But I love your honesty about that, though. I love your honesty both about it affects you. Because I think people be capping sometimes like, you know, my pain in my divorce affected how I parented. And also the reality of I put so much work on myself. Now I look back to myself and how I deal with those same situations. Yep. I would deal with them differently, which ultimately probably would have never made to a divorce. Because here's the other truth. I meet so many clients, you know, we're in our 40s, bro. So we meet so many people who've been divorced who like, man, I should never even got divorced. Yep. So when I had two women tell me that last year, they was like, Chris, and they got married. So I'm like, you with your news, and said I should have never divorced the first one. Wow. And like, but he wasn't there. But just for her to be so like, Chris, to be honest, and then she said I was just immature. Yeah. I was prideful. Yeah. I felt shame that I didn't want nobody else, so I got divorced was the easy route. Facts. But as I got to married again, you still with the same problems in the relationship.
Still you know.
So she was like, to be honest with you, I never should have got and I was just like, so many people say that, and I'm just glad we're getting that because people try to demonize or vilify one person or the other, right. And it's just, this is what I want to highlight. I will argue based on the data and experience I've have heard, seen, read, 75% of all divorces is from a lack of interpersonal emotional skill sets.
Of course.
That's it. It ain't because they're evil and they was out, they tried to kill me, they tried to kill my, like, it's rare that a person is like taking all the money, doing stuff illegally.
Right. Completely contrary to how you met them and how they show up. You know what I'm saying?
It's usually just these skill sets.
Communication issues.
Yeah.
Lack of communicating. No accountability. No resources. Not going through counseling. Not really wanting to address that little boy in you that you feel you need to be validated by some woman who doesn't know you. Not being aligned with God. All of these things. As we know, hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the blessing it is, a lot of what we do is for the benefit of other people.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's why I'm saying that's what makes you powerful.
Sure.
Because you could be like, okay, I got what I needed. Yeah. I came on the other side, keep it to myself. But you're like, nah, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. So I respect, bro. Yeah. My highlight, as dope as those speakers were.
Man.
As dope as those speakers were. Because I came with my game. Like I set the tone. You know what I mean?
100%. I've heard you speak. I've said this before. Last King Conference is the first time I actually hear you speak in that area. I've heard you preach.
Yeah.
I've heard you obviously been side by side with you in other industries, but to hear you, it's different. And you was on your game.
Yeah, appreciate you, bro.
You
But then like, because it's like anything. You're a hooper, you're a speaker. You know when you did it. Like I know when I did it. I'm like, they got the game.
That was a triple double?
Yeah, they got the game.
Okay.
But to have Julian, but Marcus
Pierce,
and Mason, Dr. West come after, and I was just like, people's mind got to be like about, and just focus on that one subject. But as dope as those speakers were, as dope as the experience was, dope as the everything was, having my wife do what she did at the end, it was a full circle moment for me. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I'm happy for you, man.
Yeah. So that I think her being so intentional to make sure she affirmed me in front of everybody at the end was like, that was because everything else was on the script. Everything else was on the show. Everything else was on the schedule. Yeah. So when I came to the tech team, I said, hey, man, we're going to do this. We're going to close out this way. They was like, nah, I'm going after Miss Nicole speak. I said, my wife is not on the show to speak. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
He was like, nah. So then I'm like, okay, so I'm creating a running show, so let me go back and check. And I go to her, and she's mic'd up. And I'm like,
what's going on there?
I said, well, let me just leave this alone, man. And I just deal with it after she said whatever she said. Because I'm thinking the women's session came out. There's something profound they want to share as the women. And she's like, come on stage with me. And I was just like, I'm just being obedient. You know what I mean? But that was definitely the highlight because it meant way more than what she said. Right. You know what I mean? Right. But only those who know. You know what I'm saying?
You want to talk about that 20, that 20 years?
Yeah, I remember we was in Bermuda, man. I was telling you offline, like, we did a marriage workshop in like 09, 08 at Vernon Temple. And we argued. So Vernon Temple has a hill coming up to it, right, from Middle Road. Yeah. And so you come up the hill, there's the door to the fellowship hall. Right. We parked right by that door where they usually have like a handicap or for elderly so they don't have to walk up the steps. We're arguing right there. And I just opened up like, get out, we're going to do this event and you're going to speak. And we had a great experience. But just to fight mentally, emotionally, relationally, communicate, like it's been a fight unseen to the public eye for years. And this is the first time, this is the first year, 2024, after being with her since 2002, is the first year I haven't had to fight my wife to walk into a space that God has called us to that's led by me. So it took whatever it took to go through whatever we had to go through and the time. E.T. said something to this too, and I love sharing it because I think it's important. He said, don't care what you think and don't care what you feel. It takes 21 years to be 21 years old. And he says it in a way that you will get there when you get there, but it's gonna take the time it needs to take. Yeah. And you may want to rush it. You may got some new technology. You may got some new insight, but it's gonna take 21 years to be 21 years old. And now he doesn't break down why he's saying that,
Right.
but leaving it for interpretation for a lot of us is just like, no matter what we want, maturity takes time, growth takes time. These things take time. But for us, we got time stamps that we feel like we should be at a certain place at a certain time.
Exactly.
And I released a lot of that, bro. I wouldn't say all of it because I'm not perfect, but a lot of like expectations on what time something should be done.
Right.
I'm good. So for me, the conference was just confirmation that God is still good to me. Yeah. He's still worthy to be praised.
We're getting the groove, man. We're in the right place.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever doubted we were in the right place. Obviously, we do this because it's necessary. But when you have your peers affirm you, and your wife affirm you, when you have people around you, people that I didn't even know were coming up to me saying, like they knew me, and I'm just like, yo, and then I'm making a connection with voices on the prayer line, people that I follow on social media, that follow me on social media. It definitely reaffirms that the work that we're doing, the stuff we're endeavoring to do, is valuable, is needed, and it's critical for man, for the development of man in this particular space. So again, I'm humbled to just be a part of it, man, and I'm appreciative. And we, as we knew, we give all glory to God for it.
Yeah, but you do need that. You do need that reminder to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it definitely was that gasoline to keep going. And we had another great, successful podcast today. And so I'm just full, bro. Sure. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm ready to do my honey-do list with my wife, man. Make sure, because she sacrificed so much. I think about our first event, Chizzy, Pop, was in 2000, and me and my wife did the first event together in 2003. We got Event of the Year by the SGA in college for an event we did on campus that was the biggest event on campus. Okay. It was called Black History Education Celebration. Okay. So we did an event at a PWI where we did it back-to-back years. We won that event. We won that award back-to-back years. Most attendance, most school involvement, most community engagement. So a lot of people didn't know that.
Right. I didn't know that.
So me and Nick been doing events together for over 20 years.
Sure.
So she ran all the back of house. I was the host of the event. We had break dancers. We had African dancers. We had historical figures. We had 300 historical figures from African American engineers. And basically, because it's at a PWI, so 99% of the school is white. Right. So they don't really know a lot about a lot of the stuff that, black engineer created stoplights, created a fridge, like all of these things that people don't know. Like the owner of the company got the patent, but even Thomas Edison creating the light bulb, there was an actual worker, black worker, that connected some of that wiring to actually create the light to come up. But it's like he owns the factory and really all the workers. So like he's still, like people don't realize a lot of this stuff. The workers figured it out. Yeah. But the owner gets the rights and gets the credit.
We got to demystify a lot of this stuff, man.
So but some it was this unique deacon at this church, First Baptist Church, which was his historical church that Martin Luther King was able to walk down in the historical side of St. Augustine, Florida. Yeah. He gave me these cards and I put them on the back of the chairs. Okay. So it was almost like he was in magical chairs, but you had to read the bio. And depending on, that's how you knew the name of the person, and whoever was sitting in that chair, they got gifts throughout the presentation. So we had to cut the lights on, and everybody had to read, and so they all was learning while we're doing breakdancing, while we're doing African folklore, while we're doing African dances, while we're doing like just spoken word, and we had steppers, an all boys step.
Stuff they ain't never gonna experience otherwise.
Yeah, at a PWI school, right? Yeah. So they're like, man, I didn't know black people created almost all the stuff we use in America. It's like, almost every single thing you use.
This ain't black history, it's American history.
It's actually like, you know what I mean? So like, okay, you know what I mean? So like, for me and her and I had to think about all the sacrifices. I wasn't yesterday was not. I was not thinking about me, and I'm always driven in some aspects to kind of consider myself in respect. But I really was thinking about you. I would love that your dad and your son was there. All the people that supported me to get to this point. I told my wife in the car, I said, thank God that my dad raised me not to be a weirdo, because I honor relationships. And a lot of that space was from relationships I honored in the past.
Sure.
So even a lot of the staff was next level staff.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, because I bless him and I take care of his staff, he lets his staff take care of him. You get what I'm saying? Like it's like that's not a money thing.
No way.
There's no money involved.
That's reputation.
It's
that's
just,
relationship.
So, but I could have ruined that though.
Yeah.
I had justifiable reasons to ruin and sabotage the relationships. Same way with him, the same way with some of the speakers. All my speakers speak for free.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like these guys one of them charged $75,000 for an hour. Another guy charges $25,000 an hour. Yeah. So you're getting information from people who pay premium dollars across the world to hear these guys speak and get the insight. And they was able to be able to feed our community and glean from these guys in a very intimate setting. Yeah. Bro, I'm not even worthy of all that, bro. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I can't stunt, I can't flex. I'm just, all glory goes to God. Exactly. And shout out to my wife again for just enduring my growth and my development for these past 20 plus years. So it's full circle. It was a full circle moment.
Yeah, it was a fulfilling day. As you know, like we need these. I need these. I love when we podcast. I love when we sit and we talk. I love having King Conference. I wish I could do it. I wish I could move to Atlanta. We'll figure that out at some point too. Because the network and the love that you genuinely feel as soon as you walk in the building, you just feel a love that's unprecedented that you don't get from any other conference. You know what I mean? And I think that intimacy we create, everybody that's there is connected to us, you, in intimate ways. If you really, really think about it. Now, shout out to the team. Shout out to Deani. Shout out to Cardi Guy. Shout out to Noel. Shout out to everybody that supports Boy Man King, the King Conference, man. We cannot do this stuff without everybody that supports us, the speakers as well. So I'm humbled. I know you're humbled by just being able to be a vessel to make these things happen, man. So
yeah, man.
That's big.
So, hey, listen, the journey continues. Man, the Boy Man King podcast, the KingCon was a movie. We see you next year. We out.
Yes, sir.